Trolls versus religious people. A parallel between online and theological toxicity. Introduction. Throughout history, human beings have developed numerous ways to cope with suffering. Some turn to religion, seeking solace in faith, while others lash out, inflicting their pain onto others. In the modern digital era, internet trolls represent a new manifestation of an ancient pattern of behavior, one rooted in suffering and perpetuated through cycles of abuse and misinformation. Both online trolls and certain religious ideologies share a disturbing commonality. They thrive on psychological manipulation, division, and the justification of suffering. This essay explores the parallels between trolls and religious individuals who propagate harmful doctrines, examines the role of trauma in shaping these behaviors, and proposes a solution rooted in social change rather than mythological promises. The psychology of suffering. How pain begets more pain. Humans are shaped by their environments, and one of the most consistent findings in psychology is that individuals who experience abuse or neglect often perpetuate that abuse in some form. Whether through bullying, toxic religiosity, or trolling, those who have suffered tend to externalize their pain, consciously or unconsciously, by inflicting suffering onto others. This is not to say that all religious individuals or internet trolls have suffered childhood abuse, but there is a clear correlation between traumatic environments and toxic behaviors. Many murderers, rapists, and pedophiles share histories of childhood abuse, just as many extreme religious figures and online trolls exhibit patterns of psychological distress and unresolved trauma. The language of hate. Parallels between trolls and religious fanatics. One of the starkest similarities between trolls and religious extremists is their use of language. Internet trolls often push the boundaries of acceptable discourse, deliberately invoking Nazism, racism, and violent rhetoric to provoke outrage and cause harm. They revel in causing pain, hiding behind the anonymity of the internet. Religious extremists, while often more socially accepted, use similarly destructive language. The idea that non-believers will burn forever in hell is a psychological weapon wielded to maintain control. It establishes a system of fear, where the faithful are granted a morally superior position simply by believing in a deity, rather than by demonstrating ethical behavior. The implicit message is clear. Morality is secondary to submission. This perspective is deeply troubling because it creates a psychological inequality. A person can live a kind, generous life but be damned for not believing, while a murderer who finds Jesus can be saved. This toxic framework mirrors the troll mindset. Inflict suffering while absolving oneself of any moral responsibility. Religion as a death cult. The false promise of salvation. Many religious institutions present themselves as solutions to human suffering, claiming that faith can overcome addiction, poverty, and moral weakness. However, the reality is often the opposite. Religion operates on an addiction to lying, promising an afterlife with no evidence, while perpetuating suffering in the present by enforcing outdated moral dogmas. One of the most insidious aspects of religious doctrine is its relationship with money. Many churches and religious institutions claim that giving money to the church will result in divine blessings. This is a blatant lie, as money itself is based on scarcity and exploitation rather than universal well-being. This kind of religious manipulation does not solve real-world problems. It exacerbates them by diverting resources away from tangible solutions. For instance, addiction is a deeply complex psychological and social issue that requires medical, emotional, and economic support. Religious organizations often claim to cure addiction through faith, but in reality, they replace one dependency with another. Instead of fostering self-empowerment, they enforce dependence on religious institutions, perpetuating a cycle of control and submission. The scarcity-based environment and the cycle of violence. A fundamental cause of both trolling and religious extremism is the scarcity-based environment in which many people are raised. Scarcity creates fear, and fear breeds hostility. People who lack access to resources, whether financial, emotional, or educational, are more likely to lash out at others. This is evident in both the behavior of online trolls, who attack others out of their own dissatisfaction, and religious extremists, who cling to divisive doctrines because they offer a false sense of security in an unpredictable world. Scarcity-based environments fuel cycles of violence and control. Children who grow up in abusive households often become abusers themselves. Those who are indoctrinated into toxic religious beliefs often spread those beliefs, reinforcing a culture of submission and oppression. Similarly, online trolls, many of whom struggle with social rejection, project their pain onto others by fostering chaos and destruction. The solution? Building a better social environment. If the root of the problem is scarcity and trauma, then the solution must be a social environment that prioritizes well-being, education, and abundance. The Venus Project offers a compelling alternative, a vision of a world where resources are allocated based on human need rather than economic gain. By embracing technology, sustainable development, and social equality, we can break the cycle of suffering that fuels both religious extremism and internet trolling. Rather than relying on the false promises of an afterlife or engaging in destructive online behaviors, humanity should focus on tangible progress. Scientific advancements, mental health support, and equitable resource distribution are the keys to reducing suffering. Only by addressing these core issues can we hope to create a world where people no longer feel the need to lash out, whether through online harassment or religious condemnation. Conclusion: trolls and religious extremists are two sides of the same coin, both emerging from pain and perpetuating cycles of suffering. Their toxic language, psychological manipulation, and reliance on falsehoods reveal a deeper societal problem: a world built on scarcity, fear, and control. The only way forward is to abandon archaic belief systems and destructive behaviors in favor of a society based on reason, compassion, and scientific progress. The future must be shaped by those who seek to uplift others, rather than those who spread misery in the name of power or ideology.